Today's story is the man who tried to steal a bell by covering his own ears a long time ago in ancient China. There lived a man named Trevor. Now, Trevor wasn't a bad guy exactly, but he wasn't very bright either. Some people said he was a bit off in the head, while others just said Trevor thinks with his stomach, not his brain. He lived in a small village where nothing exciting ever happened. The most thrilling thing around was the big bronze bell that hung in front of the town's temple. It was huge, bigger than a horse cart, and when it rang, it echoed through the whole valley. Twang, twang, twang. People used it to signal important events, festivals, emergencies, or noodle sales at the market. Trevor had always loved that bell. Not because he liked the sound, but because it was shiny. Really, really shiny. And Trevor loved shiny things. He collected broken mirrors, bottle caps, and even polished rocks, all because they sparkled in the sun. To him, the temple bell was the ultimate treasure. If only I could bring that bell home, he thought. It would be the crown jewel of my collection. But there was one problem. The bell was huge. It was heavy, probably weighed as much as 5 cows, and it was firmly tied up with thick ropes. Also, it was in the middle of the village square, where everyone could see it. Stealing that bell is impossible, said the villagers when they heard Trevor muttering about it. Trevor just laughed. No, you don't understand. I have a plan, a genius plan. That night, when the moon was full and the streets were quiet, Trevor tiptoed toward the temple square. He wore black clothes. Well, dark gray, but close enough. He carried a big hammer that he borrowed from the village blacksmith. I'll just break the bell off its stand, he whispered, and roll it home. Easy peasy. He got closer and looked around. Nobody was there. He giggled. Wham! Trevor hit the bell with the hammer. Twang! The sound was so loud it nearly knocked him over. The bell rang across the entire valley like a thunderstorm. Dogs barked, birds flew out of trees, lights turned on in houses. Oh no! I forgot the bell would make noise. Trevor panicked. He crouched behind the bell, heart pounding. Everyone will come soon. I need to make sure they don't hear it. And that's when he had an idea. A brilliant, genius, completely not thought through idea which became the highlight moment of his life. If I can't hear the bell, then nobody else can either, he said proudly. And do you know what he did? He reached into his pockets and pulled out the big tufts of straw, stuffed them into his ears, and smiled like a genius. There! Now I can't hear a thing, he shouted, a bit too loudly, because, well, he couldn't hear himself anymore. Convinced the bell had been silenced, and Trevor raised the hammer again. Twang! This time, the bell rang even louder. The villagers sat up in bed. The temple priest opened his window. The town guards grabbed their swords, but Trevor, you ask, he was thrilled. Silence, he said, completely unaware of the ringing. My plan is working. As he tugged at the bell, trying to wiggle it loose, he didn't notice the group of angry, half-asleep villagers approaching him with torches and sticks. The village elder stepped forward and said, Trevor, what on earth are you doing? Trevor turned around, still with straw in his ears. Hello, my good neighbors, he shouted. Nothing to see here. Everything is nice and quiet. The villagers stared in disbelief. Does he think we're deaf? One whispered. I think he thinks he's invisible. Another replied. The elder sighed. Trevor, do you actually believe that if you can't hear the bell, we can't hear it either? Trevor nodded proudly. Exactly. No ears, no sound. The villagers laughed so hard that even the bell started wobbling again. One of them leaned in and said gently, Trevor, just because you can't hear the bell doesn't mean it's not ringing. You stuffed your ears, not ours, Trevor blinked. He pulled the straw out of his ears just as the last echo of the bell faded. Oh, he said slowly, scratching his head. So that's how Xiang works. The next morning, the whole village was buzzing with the news. Did you hear? Trevor tried to steal the temple bell by covering his own ears. Even the kids were reenacting it. walking around with straw in their ears, banging on pots and pans. From that day forward, anytime someone ignored the obvious or tried to fool themselves, people would shake their heads and say, "Don't be like Trevor. Don't cover your ears and pretend the bell's not ringing." And that's how the idiom came to be. It means to cover your ears while stealing a bell, foolishly deceiving yourself, thinking others won't notice just because you pretend not to. So what happened to Trevor after all this? Trevor didn't get into too much trouble. The villagers knew he wasn't truly evil, just terribly silly. As punishment, they made him clean the bell every week. He would polish it until it shone like the sun. Strangely, he didn't mind shiny things and no heavy lifting. "Sounds good to me," Trevor said. And every time he looked at the bell, he smiled and whispered, "Next time, I'll wear earmuffs." The villagers groaned. There's no next time. Moral of the story: it's okay to make mistakes, but pretending something isn't happening just because you ignore it doesn't make it go away. Just like covering your ears won't stop a bell from ringing, ignoring your problems won't make them disappear. Face things honestly and don't be like Trevor. The end.